Was birth painful? On a scale of 1 to 10, how painful was it? Well, something that we don't talk about enough is actually the fact that our bodies naturally release pain relieving hormones. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited and proud to announce that little Wesley is here, no longer in my stomach. So grateful for that. Today I'm going to be answering all of your biggest questions surrounding my birth. If you haven't seen my birth video, I will have the link down below. This is my third baby boy. I'm 24-year-old mom, and Wesley was our very first home birth, and you guys have had so many questions around that. So today I'm going to be answering all your questions. I'm going to be answering your questions around how I had a pain-free birth, if I tore, how long I was in labor for, because as you guys did notice from my labor video, it was not very long at all. One of the top comments I got that I thought was so funny was, did you intentionally stay quiet during labor because your kids were there, or was that just how you roll? And I thought that was so funny because I felt like I was so loud during labor. So yes, my kids were in the home while I was giving birth, but they were not in the same room. I kind of wanted them to be in the same room. I kind of had an idea that that could be a good experience for all of us. But ultimately, they just ended up watching TV in their room. We actually specifically went out and bought the cheapest TV we could find so that we had that option. Of course, we didn't know how labor was going to go. You never know. You want to be prepared for the worst. And so I wanted to be prepared for the worst. And I knew that there was a very high possibility I wouldn't want them present, or that they themselves may not want to be present. So if they had come out during labor, I would not have been against that, but they did not come out of their room during labor. I don't think they even noticed. And then as soon as I had the baby, we called them out to come meet the baby, and they were so excited. They loved their little brother Wesley so much. And yeah, I did not feel like I was quiet at all, but I'm glad you thought I was quiet. I did try to stay as calm as possible during labor because I wanted to keep my body calm and relaxed. And so because of that, I did try to really just keep my tone as low as possible, tried to keep my mindset as clear as possible, and just not get myself panicky or worked up at all. I felt like I was a little louder than I was hoping to be, but overall, I was pretty happy with how everything went. My mom is visiting, and the kids and her just stopped by to say hi to me. They've been out walking, so that's fun. I do have the door cracked because it is getting so hot in here. It is February in Florida, and we have hot weather here in Florida, so baby is happy. Wesley is super happy though. He's loving it. So one of the top questions I had, there was a lot of different question boxes around this subject, but a lot of people were asking me about having a pain-free birth. This is something I talked about on my Instagram a lot. As you know, this was my first home birth. I had talked a lot about the different books I was reading and how I was really interested in the pain-free labor movement, which actually I've realized since then that it can be somewhat of a controversial subject. So it was definitely something I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about whether or not my labor was pain-free. For me, pain-free labor was more of a mindset than it was an actuality. I knew I wasn't actually going to have a pain-free birth experience, but one of the books that I was reading around labor, I believe it was the hypnobirthing book, was really talking about how labor and delivery, birth, did not used to be something that women were fearful of or scared of. It was something that was often seen as sacred. I'm a Christian myself. I see it as a very sacred and religious time for sure. And throughout the book, they were just talking about how powerful and spiritual and empowering it was to women until it became something that started to become feared. And throughout history, how there's so much history around women giving birth, how it used to be home births, then it turned into hospitals, how the hospitals became very male dominated and very much against women and against what was right and natural for women. And the entire book was so interesting. I will try to link the books down below, or at least the titles and the authors that I read that I found so interesting and helpful. So for me, having a pain-free birth was something that I focused on for myself. I ultimately went to the hospital with my first two boys, the reason why I ended up getting the epidural, which is something that I kind of regretted later. I hate to say regret, because honestly, if I could go back in time, I know I would have done my first birth the same way. With my second birth, I was really on the fence. I did really want to have a home birth at that time, but unfortunately there were some people close in my life that really scared me into going against my intuition of wanting to have a home birth. And when I was going through that labor and delivery, the whole time in my mind, I just knew you are never doing this again. Like, just the whole time I was going through that birth, I would just realized I had made a mistake. I wanted to have a home birth. I should have stuck with my gut. I should have had a home birth. And I knew next time around I was going to do it no matter what. So with Wesley, I was very determined to have a home birth, but I was terrified of the pain because in the hospital, I always had the option to get an epidural and I always opted to get it. So for me, focusing on the fact that it wasn't going to be a painful experience was for my mindset, for my anxiety, to calm my soul and to get me ready. And did I experience pain during my birth with Wesley? Absolutely yes. But for me, preparing my mindset and preparing my mind, meditating daily on different birth affirmations that I had written up for myself, none of these birth affirmations included anything with pain. Some people have birth affirmations that include pain, like this pain is bringing me towards the baby, this pain is whatever. I'm someone with a very low pain tolerance. All amounts of pain that might not bother other people really bother me. And because of that, birth was always something that terrified me. After having my first, it terrified me a lot less. But knowing I was going to have a home birth for the first time, it definitely scared me because I didn't really know what kind of pain to expect since I had technically never done it unmedicated before. And that's actually something I want to talk about a little later, because even though technically this was my first unmedicated birth, it kind of wasn't, and I'll get into that. So for me, just preparing myself and meditating daily and staying calm and focused and telling myself it's not going to be a painful experience. This is what your body was made to do. As a woman, you were made to do this. God made your body to open up, to release this baby, to bring life into this world. Just telling myself it wasn't going to be a painful experience helped me relax and be calm and be excited for birth throughout the entire pregnancy. And when it was painful, it didn't surprise me. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to have a pain-free experience. I knew it was going to be painful, but preparing myself in that way did help me. And throughout the birth, I refused to tell myself that it was painful. I would tell myself this is pressure, not pain. I would tell myself different things. And honestly, my labor was so fast. That's another question that we'll get into. It was so fast. I really didn't have time to focus on the pain that much. Was it painful? Absolutely yes. But would I recommend looking into pain-free labor and delivery? Books that really focus on labor being pain-free, that really focus on birth being pain-free? Absolutely yes, because that helped me so much. It helped my mindset so much. I've seen some people say that it's not a good mindset to have because then women expect it to be pain-free. For me personally though, it worked so well for me and I never really actually expected it to be absolutely pain-free, although throughout my entire pregnancy, I would tell myself, this is not going to be a painful experience. I would literally refuse to say those words out loud or to even think them because I wanted my body and mind to be relaxed and calm. There's so much research about how much our mindset affects us physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so because of that, I wanted my mindset to be, this is not going to be a painful experience, because I knew that I could quite literally change my experience just based off of my mindset alone. And some people might not agree with that, but personally, I know that helped me so much mentally. It helped me not have anxiety throughout my pregnancy. Something I would do throughout my pregnancy would just be practicing going into labor. And it was something that one of the books recommended. They would say, in your mind, pretend that you are going into labor right now. And when I did that, I would start having panicky thoughts and feelings like, oh my gosh, when this actually happens, am I going to be ready for it? Am I ready for the pain? Am I ready for, whatever? And when I kind of got that panicky rush of thoughts and emotions, I would start going through my birth affirmations. I would start meditating, working on my mindset of, this is going to be an amazing experience. You were made for this. You are ready for this. You can bring life into this world without fear of pain. And for me, that helped me. And when I did actually go into labor, I was so ready for it. I was not fearful in any way, shape, or form. Quite literally, there was no fear. I knew in that moment when I knew I was in labor, this is going to be an amazing experience. This is going to be a spiritual experience. This is going to be an empowering experience. And it absolutely was. And was it painful? Yes. But because I never focused on that before, I didn't focus on it during. And even now afterwards, I don't remember the pain. I just remember the power and the strength that I felt during labor. Birth has been always something I've really loved, really looked forward to after my first one, but this was definitely my best by far, and the one I looked forward to the most by far. Well, one of the most common questions that I got asked was, did I tear? So I did have a water birth, and one of the reasons I really wanted to have a water birth was because I had read that it helps with tearing, and it absolutely did. So I did tear with all 3 of my babies. All of them were really minor tears, but I did have to use the Dermaplast spray, the pain relief spray, ice packs, witch hazel, all those different things I used with my other kids. With him, he was my biggest baby. He was 9 pounds. My other 2 were just almost exactly 7 pounds. So he was my biggest baby by far. And not to be TMI, but I could feel that he was bigger. It definitely opened me up more. It definitely, like, I felt that ring of fire when he crowned. Despite that, I tore the least amount. I did not need any kind of pain relief. I didn't need the pain relief spray. I didn't need ice packs. It never burned to pee, and it always burned to pee for at least the first week after my other 2 boys, but he was my first baby that it never burned to pee. It never hurt that much down there, other than obviously you feel kind of sore and out of sorts. So I really think the water birth helped so much with that. I will never have another birth that isn't a water birth. I recommend it so much, and I recommend it for other reasons too, but I need to kind of get along here and answer more questions. Okay, well, we are having a bit of a difficult time trying to film this because I'm having a hard time finding a spot for the camera to be set up. And then we did have to go inside because the camera was in the heat of the sun, so we're gonna try this again. Someone asked me on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did it hurt? And I thought this was a really interesting question, and I was trying to think of how to best answer this, because something I really dislike, and something that I was kind of trying to explain earlier with the whole pain-free birth, is that there's so much fear around birth. And actually, quite literally, just the fear itself around birth is what makes birth so painful. And because of how terrified women are of birth, it causes our bodies to tense up. It causes us to really become so fearful that our bodies close up, we scrunch up, our muscles get tensed. And that is the opposite of what we need to do to have a good birth, to have a good and pain-free, or as pain-free as possible birth, to release the baby. You need to release. You need to be relaxed. You need to be calm. And when you are fearful of the pain, you quite literally can't bring yourself to release, to become relaxed. The truth of the matter is, when we focus on how painful it is or how painful it's going to be, we're not doing ourselves any kind of service. We're doing ourselves a huge disservice. Okay, once again, my arm is just going to kind of be here holding it because I am having a difficult time finding a good angle or a good way to keep the camera up. But something I really dislike is all the statistics around how painful birth is for women. We see statistics like giving birth is the same amount of pain as having 10 heart attacks at the same time. And then because of this, we're so fearful and we're so tensed up, and our bodies need to be relaxed. We need to relax ourselves into labor. Was birth painful? On a scale of 1 to 10, how painful was it? Well, something that we don't talk about enough is actually the fact that our bodies naturally release pain relieving hormones. Our bodies fight the pain that we are feeling with oxytocin, with good feel good hormones that help us get through labor. So was it painful? Absolutely yes. Was it a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10? Absolutely yes. I would say it's a scale of 10, but it's pain with a purpose. It's different than any other pain I've ever felt. When we hear that something was a scale of 10 on the pain scale, we think of the last time in our lives that we felt that much pain, right? Like the last time I felt that much pain that I would say it was a 10 would be when I got in the car accident and had my head ripped open, and I have metal plates holding my head back together. But that type of pain scale 10 pain compared to birth pain scale 10 pain is completely different, and there's really no way to explain it unless you've actually gone through it yourself. But when you are giving birth, it's just a completely different feeling of pain. It truly is pain with a purpose, and because of that, you just handle it differently. And it's hard to explain, but it doesn't feel the same. It's not like you're being tortured. It truly is a pain that you know is powerful, and it makes you feel powerful. I didn't feel powerful when I had my head smashed open in a car accident, but when I'm giving birth, that pain I feel, it's different, and it really is a powerful feeling. I promise you, it's not something to be scared of, and it absolutely is something that your body can handle. You might not think you can handle it, but in the moment, when you are in the moment, you absolutely can handle it, and you know you can. You know you are powerful enough and strong enough in that moment. You really are given that power that you need to get through it. every woman I've met that has had a home birth or even a hospital birth, even, you know, there's plenty of women that have epidural-free hospital births, or perhaps they get the epidural, but it doesn't work partially. Women are so, so powerful. Birth is such an empowering experience, and it really truly shows you how strong, how brave, and how powerful you are. And it's an amazing experience. So a big question I got asked was, how long did I push for? So between transition is when you start really feeling the urge to push, and then actually pushing, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. It was not long at all. None of my other boys were very long either. This was not my fastest labor. This was actually my longest of actually pushing. With my other kids, I literally pushed like twice and the babies were out. With him, I had to push a few more times because, again, he was my biggest baby, and it definitely took a little bit longer to get him out, but even so, very, very short. Honestly, I barely even remember it just because it was so short, so quick. And it was really, really difficult. The question I got asked a lot was, how was this birth compared to having an epidural? And I kind of want to make a whole video focused on having a natural birth versus having an epidural, but something I will just say quickly, because if I was to go over my entire experience, it would be a much longer story. But even though I had an epidural with my boys, I got really light dosages. I waited a really long time before I got them. And with my first birth, the epidural was completely out of my system by the time I was pushing. With my second birth, the epidural only worked on half of my body, and I got the lightest dose I possibly could. So the pain was not a surprise at all. I had felt it all before. Honestly, my epidurals before were so pointless and so useless because I got the lightest dosages possible. In hindsight, it was silly of me to get them, but again, it was completely a fear-based decision, not one I would recommend. So this birth was really about the same when it comes to pain, because I had felt all of this before. I had felt the ring of fire, I had felt the baby crowning, I had felt every push, I had felt it all before. Someone said, I want to have a home birth. My husband and I are going to start trying to have a baby a year from now. What would you recommend to prepare for the birth? And someone else asked, how much research did you do to prepare for this birth? So I did some research. I definitely read a few different books. As I mentioned, I will be linking them down below, or at least writing out the titles and authors so that you can find them yourself. I think I ended up reading about 4 different books on home birth. But honestly, something that was a huge theme of all the books that I read anyway was just talking about how, as a woman, your body is going to know what to do. Your body is going to know how to breathe, how to move, how to bring this baby into this world. It is a primal instinct that will take over your body. And that was something that I really internalized. I really tried to focus on that because I was really terrified. Like, what if I don't know what position? What if I don't know what kind of breath work I should be doing? And truly, when I went into labor, when I was pushing, when I was giving birth, when I was having contractions, my body took over. I was not doing anything that I had practiced. I was not doing anything like specific. I was doing what my body wanted to do. My body wanted to drop to all fours every time I had a contraction. So that's exactly what I did. The way that I was breathing, the way that I was moaning, the way that I was making noises, it all just came out of me. It was not planned. It was not practiced. It was not something that my midwife told me to do. It was absolutely my primal instincts taking over. When they say that your body knows what to do, they mean it. Your body knows what to do. So do I recommend research? Absolutely yes. I think it's great to read books. I think it's great to be prepared. I was doing different research just preparing for if I had the baby on my own. You know, what would I need to do if I needed to resuscitate the baby? Just things like that, because I felt like that was important, and I knew no matter what, I was not going to the hospital. I told my husband, if I have to birth this baby alone at home by myself in the backyard in a ditch somewhere, I will do that over the hospital. And I meant it 100%. Hospital births and the trauma that comes with that, the medical interventions that are unnecessary, unwanted, forced against your will, that's a whole nother subject that I'm not going to get into, at least not in this video, but it's absolutely something that is a huge struggle, something I've had to deal with myself, something I've heard so many other women have to deal with. So I knew without a doubt this was going to be a home birth. And if it was going to have to be a free birth, it was going to be a free birth, but it was not a free birth. The midwife got there in plenty of time. And something that I would say, honestly, to prepare yourself is just to truly prepare your mindset, your heart, your soul. If you are a religious person, get yourself right with God, get yourself meditating every day, practicing, praying, praying over your body, praying over your birth, praying over your baby, and ultimately just bringing yourself to a peaceful state of mind. I think that is honestly so much more important than trying to prep different kinds of breath work or, you know, positions, because ultimately your body will know what to do in the moment. And I can say that from experience now myself. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below. I will try to answer them, and we'll see you in our next video. Love you. Bye.